Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tulo Hoyane. So this morning I'd like to give you an overview of what happened in court yesterday. And it was quite interesting stuff. The name of Kelly Khumalo has once again come up. Kelly Khumalo has again been fingered by Gininda as the mastermind behind the killing of MEYIWA. This, I think, has happened so many times, but we now know that according to Gininda, Kelly Khumalo is the mastermind behind the killing of her own boyfriend, MEYIWA. But let us look at the cross-examination of Advocate Mnisi yesterday. Advocate Mnisi was again on Gininda. You remember that in the last 2 days, he has been grilling Gininda to the bone about, the hearsay evidence that Gininda has put before that court. Well, there's a lot of hearsay going on here. Gininda, let us begin by saying that Gininda relies on what is known as circumstantial evidence. In other words, because in the MEYIWA trial, we do not have eyewitness evidence. Remember, none of the people, the so-called intruders who went into the house, were positively identified. In other words, none of the people standing trial in the Pretoria High Court has been positively identified by all the occupants of the house. So the only evidence is what in law is known as circumstantial evidence. Now, circumstantial evidence, like the word circumstantial says, is based on circumstances. In other words, there are certain happenings or circumstances that link an accused person with the commission of a crime. Although nobody really saw you doing this or that, there are certain circumstances which could suggest or lead to an inference that you are in fact involved in the commission of a crime. So Gininda was being grilled by Advocate Mnisi yesterday, and Mnisi was focusing on the memorandum that Gininda submitted to the prosecution so that these people could then be charged before the Pretoria High Court, like we see them being charged before the Pretoria High Court. So the circumstantial evidence that he relied upon coming from Absalom Zungu, has just been exposed for what it is. It is just a lot of hearsay, that triple hearsay that I've been telling you about. So Gininda went on to say that there is also further, in that statement rather, he has also gone further to say, as Mnisi read in that statement, he goes on further to say, there was also circumstantial evidence that links accused number 5 with Kelly Khumalo. There has been some communication according to, there was that cell phone analyst or cell phone expert. I think the name is Colonel Stein, who says there's been some telephonic communication before and after the commission of this crime between accused number 5 and Kelly Khumalo. You see, the most important thing is, out of that communication that cell phone expert testified to, it does not come out clearly what it was they were talking about. Because you see, it is not a crime for accused number 5 to have communicated with Kelly Khumalo before or even after the commission of the crime. Because the crucial thing is, what were they talking about? And Gininda has not established, right, that there were no relationships at all. There was no relationship at all between Kelly Khumalo and accused number 5. And what sort of relationship it was. And for the purposes of this trial, if there was any relationship, it should be a relationship that is directly linked to the killing of MEYIWA and nothing else. Now, that cell phone communication itself does not even suggest that, there was some communication relating to the killing of MEYIWA. So it does not on its own as circumstantial evidence link the accused person, specifically accused number 5, with the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. It does not, because Gininda does not explain what was contained in that cell phone communication, and the cell phone expert himself could not say to the court that this is the discussion, this was what was discussed between Kelly Khumalo and accused number 5. So if Gininda says, well, Kelly Khumalo was the mastermind, fine, let her, finger and throw Kelly Khumalo under the bus that she was the mastermind. But who did she mastermind? Who were her foot soldiers? It cannot be on that. It cannot on that basis alone be said that the foot soldier was accused number 5. Although that is suggestive of some kind of communication between the two, that is not conclusive evidence that accused number 5 actually conspired with Kelly Khumalo to have Senzo Meyiwa killed. So whoever it was that, Kelly Khumalo was mastermind of, it cannot be exclusively, we cannot be conclusively be said that she was the mastermind of accused number 5 or any of the accused persons. The other circumstantial evidence which Gininda seeks to rely upon concerns accused number 3. In that statement, Gininda says there were photographs that were found of an envelope, something like a transparent envelope with money inside it, and that those photographs were found in the cell phone of accused number 3 and in the cell phone of Kelly Khumalo. Now, that is not conclusive evidence at all. It is not. To start with, those are photographs, right? Those are photographs, and those are photographs of money. Nobody can definitively say that those photographs and that money in that transparent envelope, nobody can conclusively say, in fact, what is depicted in those photographs is actually money. And, in a criminal trial, there must be certainty. We cannot just use, inferences and, deductions. We have to get conclusive evidence so that we can rest assured that, there is no doubt about the guilt of anyone in this trial. So that is how it went yesterday. Gininda was trying to, fend off, cross-examination questions from Advocate Mnisi, and Mnisi will be on him this morning to continue to grill him about, that evidence. But another disturbing thing that I saw were the interjections of the judge, The judge kept on, every time Gininda sort of ran into problems, the judge would intervene, straighten out what Gininda is supposed to have said, and then just put it to Gininda in this way. Is that not what you have said? And Gininda simply, confirms it. So that is improper on the part of the judge, At no time should he be seen to be reconstructing, the evidence of Gininda, and then putting that reconstructed, evidence to Gininda, just for Gininda to confirm yes or no. And of course, every time Gininda, is asked about that reconstructed evidence, Gininda just goes yes. Another disturbing trend which I think the defense must get out of the way is the way Gininda answers questions. Gininda must be stopped dead in his tracks. That is not the way to answer questions. I think the defense, especially Advocate Mnisi yesterday, and I'm not taking away anything from Advocate Mnisi, get me right. I am just saying to strengthen his cross-examination, to make his cross-examination much more effective, he must make sure that Gininda confines himself to the question that is being asked. Because, you see, the object of cross-examination is to elicit an answer. It is not to elicit a history. It is not to elicit history out of a witness. And Gininda is fond of making explanations. You know, he'll be asked something like, so it was on that basis that you then concluded that in your memo that these people were responsible for the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. He will then say, yes, but. He has got those buts and buts and buts. Nisi must just stop him dead into his tracks. He must answer questions, yes or no. Because you see, if you let him go on and on and on, it simply just waters down, you know, that answer. Although he has answered yes and has agreed with Munisi, you'll see that, you know, those explanations that come afterwards then sort of have the impact of watering that admission. So the defense must be alive and alert to this. Gininda is fond of explaining. When he's caught up and entangled in something, he will always try and explain himself out of that kind of situation. And you see, answers are not supposed to be explanation. Where an explanation is called for, a defense lawyer will actually say, I need your explanation on this. But where it is not called for, it does not have to be given. Only is because that is the only because that's the way that Gininda uses. That's a ruse, that's a trick that Gininda uses to actually avoid his failure to answer questions. So this morning, Advocate Nisi is on him again, and we'll see how it pans out. But Kelly Khumalo has come up again. But you see, there is no link between Kelly Khumalo and the accused persons. If Gininda is out to say Kelly Khumalo is the mastermind and had, you know, played this pivotal role in the killing of Senzo Meyiwa, fine, let him do it. But you see, the most crucial thing is, if Kelly Khumalo was the mastermind behind the killing of her own boyfriend, why has Kelly Khumalo not been arrested? I've been asking this ever since this disclosure by the Gininda, you know, came to the fore. If Kelly Khumalo was the mastermind, why was the mastermind not arrested? You see? But let's leave it at that. Gininda says Kelly Khumalo was the mastermind. Now Gininda must find who the people that she masterminded were. Who was she mastermind of? Because certainly she was not the mastermind of the 5 people that we see in the doc. Right? They must find some other people, like they've gone on a witch hunt arresting almost everybody. You remember that poor fellow who was arrested in KZN shortly after Senzo Meyiwa was killed. So they better go and find out who the foot soldiers are. And that is where it is going to end. Anyway, having said that, let me thank you for watching these videos. Please like and share these videos. And please kindly subscribe and have a wonderful day.